Yo, this TB2 with a message to the world. This is an N.O.vate story. Whew, crazy one too, man. This story is gonna be about a place in Detroit. Something I went through in my childhood that if I wasn't I just got lucky, man. The place is called Camp Pioneer. It's called Wolverine Humane Service. Something. It's under Wolverine. It's closed now. But it was called Camp Pioneer. It was somewhere way out in the Upper Peninsula, man. It was on the island by itself. No cops, no nothing, no school. We were literally just on an island, just surrounded by water. And there was a pond, and there was water like in the corner of it, like a big pond in the middle of it, to where you could run around. We used to have to in the pond. The place was so big that if you ran around the pond, I believe that was a mile. And sometimes they'll make us do that 12 times. But this story is about something they used to do there. But I'm just going to give you some context first. I was sent there when I was 13. I wasn't the youngest one there. I think I was 14. I think the oldest there was maybe, if you did something real bad and you couldn't be charged as an adult, they sent some of us there. Most dudes was there. Some dudes was there for rape. Some dudes was there for like murder. A few dudes was there for like killing family and members. If you did something to where they made you a ward of the state, that's where they would send you. For me, I got caught with dope, a lot of dope at 13, at 14, coming out of, me and my boy ran a crack house when we was 13 years old. And the feds hit us, and I got caught with a lot of drugs. I don't know how much we had. And they would have let me go, but I was so bad. My pops committed me to the state. Like, no, I'm not taking him. So they made me a ward of the state. So that means they just sent me there. They told you when you were a kid, they'll tell you like, yes, so you got life. That's the court term for it, which means you got life as a child. But they'll say it like that. And they said it like that to me. I didn't even understand it. I think they do that they still do that. They'll tell a child, like, if you get committed as a ward of the state, or if you get sentenced until you're an adult, they'll still say you got life. That's how they say it. But the point is, so they sent me to this place, and I'm in here with these dudes, but I'm the only one that really shouldn't be there. I was really a mess at home. My father, he was just. He saved my life putting me there. I was too bad to be that young. Holding work. I get caught with like 2 keys in the crib when I was 12. He'll bring the whole family, throw it on the thing, like, look what he gonna get us all killed. Like I was bad, man. God changed me. That's why it's not good for me to drink. That thought come the way I talk. That's the way I was. Like like I would hurt. But this place, man, was terrible, bro. And I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you some things they did to us in this place. And what prompted me to share this was watching a documentary about the that that Larry Ray dude and that little college cult that he not. But I'm not even gonna like say it like that. That was terrible, man. That college cult that he ran and the way he did them. I can understand that type of behavior. That's why I say the place I was in was military. Even if you watch that documentary, you'll see that he sent one of those young men to the military. If he wanted, and he came back, if he wanted so much control, why send him to the military unless he was connected to the military and he knew the military would program him and really break him the way I guess he wasn't able to break the kid. He sent him. That's the kid that ended up. Yeah, but anyway. So this place, bro. Now, the place was set up like we had 4 cabins, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll have the wolver. I mean, and they were each animal named like the eagle, the wolf. But it'll be kids. It'll be the 13 and the 14s and the 12s here. And maybe 111. And not in my cabin, we was the kids. And then in the other cabin were the adults, like the 15, 16. And then it was just like that on the other side, but it was a walk of a little ways from us. And what they were doing is that they were the ones that were older, or the ones that been there longer, that stayed there, that didn't disappear. Word, you could research this. When I talk about the kid dying in the water, you could research. You might be able to find that. That was on the news. They just told everybody the kid tried to escape. I'm gonna tell you what really happened to the kid. But what they would do, bro, and the reason I'm breaking this cabin down, I really just want to tell you one story. Bro, I went there, I came out that place. I'm an alcoholic to this day. God forbid, because he allows me to get, I don't claim that. But I could have been dependent on pills. They used to give me pills. They used to give me mascalines, little red pills. I was the one they would take apart from the other kids and they would get me high and drunk. I don't know. I can imagine. I see why they were taking me away for a reason, because I was the one that they was always be like, he's a little smarter, because I was street smart. They like, he shouldn't even be here. So they would take me, Mr. Currington would take me off the campus. He would take me like off across the bridge to the movies. So the place was like, there was a pond. Everything is gonna come together in my stories, bro. There was a pond to where there was like two gates, and there would always be a staff at the gates. That's going to be important later. But Mr. Currington would take me through the gates, take me to the movie, like I'm taking him off, taking him to the doctor. He'll get me high, bro, get me twisted, but he'll get me drunk, and he got me drunk almost every day. And I was 13. He did that for like 3 years. Yep. To where when I didn't drink, I would be like shaking, like Mr. Currington. Like I was having DDTs in that joint. He'll be like, I got you. I'm going to tell him I'm going to cut. You need a haircut. He'll be like, I can't keep giving you haircuts. I'm like, nigga. When I was young, you started this after about the second year, the place started changing. And he was like, I can't keep doing this. And I had to wean myself off of that stuff. But bro, yeah, he used to give me pills, some strong weed, bro. I was a kid. Like Tie Stick. I remember he opened the box. He opened this box and it was long. This Tie Stick was like on a stick. Like a hot dog, bro. Like a shish kebab. So like we would play basketball. Like, bro, the camp was structured like this, man. If you did something bad, they would GA you. Now, in normal places, you just did a regular circle and you just did therapy and you just randomly pick people but in here, they only GA'd you when you did something bad, but they eventually GA'd everybody except for me. He always told me, like, you a mystery to me. But they GA'd everybody because they knew what I was in there for. They knew what we all were in there for. When they GA'd you, they did it in a way they broke you down until they made you tell other people what you were in there for. And not only that, they'll make you tell they'll make you tell a traumatic event of your life. Just like that, I didn't know we were in like a cult. As kids, we were in a cult. I've never found nobody that was in there as an adult. It was just me and my boy Said, the only two that survived my cabin. Adrian, Larry, Alfonso Knotts, they all killed themselves. Facts. Harry got killed. Them other niggas, they killed themselves. That's how crazy that place was. Me and Said was street. Cedric Young, he's from Patton and Finkel. He run it. We rich, boo. Those my niggas. We was some of those, bro. We'll sit in the crib by the window. I remember I went over there. They like, we just had a shootout. I'm like, all right. I pulled out my AR and I said, I walked around with an AR-15. On God, people will tell you that. But God, I ain't trying to glorify that. So that's how crazy Detroit was, bro. It's still like that. We did that bull crap. Made it like that to where we was like wild west. We wasn't scared to just shoot at each other. But back to this place, bro. So they would GA you, like they GA'd this dude named Alfonso, and they made him tell that his mother was raped, and that's how he was born. So he was born from somebody raping his mother, and they made him tell that. I think he was in there for stabbing somebody or something, but he was born through rape, and they didn't just make him tell that though. And this is why I say it was a cult. Every time he did something bad, they made him believe that the spirit of the person that raped his mother was making him do bad stuff around the cabin. Even if he didn't do it, even if we didn't know what happened, man, other people would do stuff. Like, they're gonna blame Alfonso. They had all of them trained. He'd be like, they're gonna blame Alfonso. And they'll make him admit to it. Like, I did it, I'm sorry to the group. Give me my chores, I'm sorry. And he didn't even do it. And they would be like, yeah, that's the evil rapist. That's the man that raped your mother and you. And he was subservient to them. He walked around with his head down. I'd be like, boy, I used to be like, look at me, bro. And I was a kid. I was deep. I was a shooter when I was 14, so I was able to talk like that. Like, look at me, and I don't lie. I never lied. I'm gonna tell y'all, I never lied. It's just that people don't believe my story. On my family, people from Detroit know it. People that knew me be like, "Yo, he should write a book." Like I've seen heads blown off in my face. I've held bodies. I've seen bad stuff happening. Man, I lived in crack spots for years. I ran them. I lived in them as a kid, and I worked for niggas. Then when I got older, I still had that behavior. So even though my niggas had money and they was trying to put me up in apartments, I'll be like, I'm going to give me a crack house, and I'll work and make my money and live in it. I checked myself as an adult. God had to deliver me, and I can look back at myself and I could see those compulsions and how I compartmentalized pain as a child and how I did things in a repetitive way just to constantly block out the stuff I've even seen as a kid. In this place, I've seen the staff, they put a TV over one of the kids' head. I don't know what they told the people. It never made the news. Killed the kid. I'm gonna try to say this without crying. Hit the kid with a TV across his head, put his head through the glass. Probably told them he probably told them he committed suicide. A lot of kids used to be in the woods they'll be like, he committed. I don't know what they was doing to us, bro. But so with Alfonso, and this is how deep it was, and this is called Camp Pioneer. The leader name was Mr. Currington. No, Mr. Pickett, William Pickett. He must have been some type of, he was a cult leader. That place was a cult, bro. They used to make us do stuff, bro. We was kids, and we had to get up every day and work out. Man, we used to have to do a workout to where you'll be crying, to where you'll be happy to go back into that atmosphere. Then they'll put us in this little cabin with these beds that you could barely, we sleep in like shoulder to shoulder in bunk beds, and they would sit in couches and just stare at us and watch us. Just always happening, but they would GA you, bro. And when they GA'd you, they did something mental to them, bro. So what they did is they brought out your child. That's what that man did to the college kids when they say he made them sit and he made them tell their stories, and then he constantly blamed them for stuff. I bet he was using their stories. He brought their stories out. And I know what he did from what they did to us. He made them tell childhood traumas so he could blame them for what was going on in the house through that childhood trauma. So he was speaking through a part of them that was compartment to where you can almost make a person think they did. Like it's a part of mind control. You can hypnotize them you can make them operate through that compartmentalized place, and you can create different identities within them. You can learn how to control the alters within them. You can give identity to their alters. I seen them do that with the older dudes. I know my stuff, boy. Yeah. I wasn't no joke. People mock me. They got videos mocking me like N.O.vate. Yeah, watch this video. Tell me I know what I'm talking about. I saw them give the older kids dissociative identity disorder, bro. But they did it deeper. They did it so deep. Because the older kids man, this place I was in, I was different. I didn't have that type of background. My father gave me normal whippings. These kids had backgrounds to where they were like raped, and they had alters. They had compartmentalized pain. And this place was creating alters in them. Even, man, chill out, N.O.vate. Be strong, George. Be strong. I do this when I pastor. I be like, the people be like, shh, go pastor. I start crying. Yo, they would give these niggas names, son. Be strong, nigga. Yo. I don't even know if I could tell the story. That's why I never told it. I never told this one, Jay. I never told this story. I don't even know if I can. I never told it. Be strong, nigga. No, I just did that because I just smoked too. But man, they would give them niggas different names. They would have. They thought they were nicknames. As a child, I thought they were just giving them nicknames. I didn't realize this until I got older. Right after I got out of there. God just told me what they was doing. I knew. But they would give them niggas nicknames, man. Larry, call him by his last name. They would call him by his middle name. They did it like that. They would call him by his first name, his last name, his middle name, and they had a nickname for him. Everybody thinking they just calling him different names, but they did this to the older dudes. one of the older, I don't know if I never found any of them older dudes in the house. One of them named Adrian. I know he got life. He was so angry in that older cabin, man. He would run through walls, bro. He put a new door in that joint. He ran through the wall one time. He beat the wall. They was blocking the door. He beat himself out the place. I'm like, why that kid got so much anger, bro? Because they was putting altars in them, or they was identifying with their pain, and they was actually putting demonic spirits in them, and they don't know it. But they were labeling their altars, and they were programming them, and that's one reason they had to blame them for certain stuff, because it took certain stuff to trigger certain altars. And they like one dude, Larry, his name was Larry, but something happened to him. He was raped over and over. So he had an altar. They brought it out, and when they brought it out, that the altar is that child in you that compartmentalized what happened to you. So whatever happened to him when he was a child, and he compartmentalized it and blocked it out, that child is what they bring out and label. And they found parts in him, like he had a dominant one. That's the one they addressed maybe with his middle name. Then he had one that was more like protective and more like, Larry, that was more. But they had ways, and I saw how they did it. Like they would have him write down stuff, and they would have him tell his, and then they was and they was teaching his altars to communicate with each other. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm making it up. Tell me I'm not even a scientist. That's deep psychology. That's very deep psychology that I noticed as a young man. That's very deep I peeped it. I'm like, I didn't peep it but I remember it, and I put it together as I grew up. Like they was programming the kids in there. I just was different. They never did it to me. They would take me away sometimes. I don't know. I would come back and it would be different. It was only about 3 of us that were normal, and me and Sid slept under each day, and they kept us together. And they always took us out. I haven't even got to the story. So this is the story. Man, there was another dude, the dude Larry. Like Alfonso was the dude that they made his mother. I mean, his mother got raped, and they made him tell that his mother got raped. And the way they manipulated him is that when they blamed him for everything, and then they told him as a child, he about 14, and they telling him that it's the part of him that raped his mother. It's his father in him making him do all this stuff around the camp. So he was walking around scared to do anything. Like, I'm not letting my father do anything. Like, bro, they was twisting him. They twisted that boy. I think Alfonso, he killed himself. I think Larry did too. Jeez, I couldn't even tell these stories, son. Dang. I think Larry killed himself too. Well, Larry, man, Larry was in there. What happened with Larry? What happened? How did they do him? There was one kid, man, there was one kid that had killed somebody. He killed somebody at a school. And they made him tell, like, I got real angry and I killed him. But he had been abused too. But they used that against him. Like, whenever somebody got angry, whenever they would be like, they would punish Larry. Like, you see what anger can do? And they would remind him of what he did. So whenever there was something bad on the thing, he would be like, so he was the one trying to tell people like, yo, chill. They had him walking around like a peacekeeper. They mind manipulated him. They had him, so every time somebody on the camp did something angry, they would punish him and abuse him. Like, look what anger does. Look what anger does. And they would constantly remind him of what he did. They would constantly remind him of him stabbing that kid and killing that kid. Look what your anger did. Look what your anger did. Like, his anger ain't do that. That was Ronald that did that. That was Darishi that did that. And they would punish him for everything everybody did. They had him twisted. Yeah, man, this camp was terrible, bro. They closed it. It was called Camp Pioneer. Yep. They was doing mind control on them kids. I bet nobody ever knew that. If I could find the documents, and I can't find that place. I can't even find a trace of it online. All I could find is Wolverine, and I could find it's a Camp Pioneer. It's still there, but it's different. I don't know what happened to the one I was in. I was in there in 1986. I don't know what happened to that place. Peep this though. Now this was evil. I only want this to be a half hour. Now this was evil. And this is what everybody mocked me for. This is when the kid died. They said that the kid tried to swim. They said that the kid tried to escape, but he didn't. So what they would do, bro, was they would make us run around the thing 12 times. So you had to run 12 miles like every other day as a child, and you couldn't stop. I would throw up. But I was one of them that could run it and I could swim, but I never. So they would take us out. I never went on that water. They would take us in the middle of this little lake. I found out later that you could walk across it. You could, but it was in the middle of the camp. But I guess it was a drop off right in the center of it. I guess it was like a cavern. It was like a cave, and it was like, I mean, he would take the boat and take us like 2 or 3 by 3 in the middle of it, and he would drop a line in there until that reel couldn't. So he had us thinking it was like they had us thinking that the water was like hell. Like if you go in there, it's a pit to hell. Even though you couldn't escape because it was in the middle of the place, we just ran around it like we running around hell all day. We was terrified of the water. So what they would do is they would so the older kids, remember I said we was the younger kids, they had older kids. So one time they made them run one way and they made us run the other way. And they told the older kids it was supposed to be a contest. And they told the older kids it was their job to stop us from making it around the circle. So we ran around, but we had to hide, and there were small wooded areas on each side. But on one side there was water that was the never-ending water that goes into the world, and then on the other wooded side it was that little pond when you run into that circle. So it was like in the edge of it, like an earring, you know what I mean? So when you get to a certain part of it and you got to run through them, you got to hide. And it was like manhunt. In Detroit, we used to play manhunt where you run through the hood. And if you catch the people with your team, you beat their ass. It was like that. But they was older than us. Like if these niggas catch you. I mean, one of them niggas hit me in my chest. I thought that caved my chest in. They used to do. But this time, bro, these niggas was, I think they killed one of us, I think. Or I think the kid, I think two things happened. But basically, man, you got to run around the thing. And this is the only part that traumatized me in there was that water. They had them kids mentally brainwashed, but that water had me brainwashed. Watch, this is going to be deep. I never told niggas, I can't tell this story. I'm fighting not to cry as I'm telling you this shit, boy. So that's how the PTSD work, nigga. That emotion is there. So we gotta run this way while the nigga Darishi, the nigga Ronald, another nigga, I forget his name, it's 12 of them, 12 of us, and they run this way. So they run around this way, and we gotta run around this way, but it's up to us to fully come back to the staff. So there were posts. So the staff are on the post to keep us from trying to keep people from running into the main water. Because if you go past the post, then you in the main water. And they didn't want us to try to escape and drown because it was too much. The current, but so they would remove the staff from the post, and the staff would be at the finish line just waiting for us all to complete the circle. And they didn't care what happened to us in there. So I think they I don't know if the kid, I was too young. I don't know if the kid had like marks on him or not. I don't know if they beat the kid and threw him in the water. I know that I think we was terrified. I think they threw the kid in the water. And I think the kid drowned in shallow water, bro. That's what I think. And I say that to say that's how brainwashed they had us. I swam halfway across it before I peeped it. And that's how I know. That's when I remember slipping into the drop off. And the drop off, probably, I don't know how wide it was. The drop off, it had to be a cave that was maybe like 12 feet wide. But I remember realizing it, walking with the kid, then falling into the drop off and using the kid to help when I fall, grabbing him to get, because he was floating, he was heavy. As a young kid, I didn't even know I didn't know you could die in water. Like I didn't know what drowning really, really meant. In my mind, I'm like, we could bring him to the curb and, all you gotta do is pump on his chest when you drown, make the people spit up the water and bring him back to life. I didn't know how long the kid was in the water or anything. And I was traumatized. I wasn't traumatized, but I remember it was like a euphoria. It was like a manic thing. That must be what it feel like to go manic. Because I remember talking to people that got like schizo and how they'll just do something sporadic. I felt that euphoria, like I was real drunk, like I didn't know what was going on. But so they either beat the kid up or they either threw the kid in the water, or the kid I think most likely they beat the kid up and then knocked him out and threw him in the water or something, or killed him and threw him in the water. Killed him by mistake, maybe. I don't know if he had marks on him. I don't remember no blood. I didn't have blood on me. I know that for sure. But he was in the water. Or I think they threw the nigga in the water and he was so scared. He was heavy. I think he was so scared that he drowned. And when I went in the water, I saw the nigga. The current was taking him to that deep part, because that deep part had a pull once I got in the water. Because I've never gotten that water. It was like hell, bro. There was a part of that water that was like I don't know if it was spitting water up and sucking it back down, and it was going back into the main river. So there was a heavy, heavy current right there. That's when I say I had to use his body. Yeah. That's when niggas thought I was lying. So I don't fuck with niggas. Them niggas, some niggas look at me, bro. I don't even want to be famous, man, but I remember everybody that mocked me on that shit, boy. I remember every fucking body. Word, y'all don't know me, bro. But that's when I had to grab the kid. I remember, because the current, it was a pond that had two. Somehow it was the water from the main water was coming in it, but it was keeping it level. It was going back and forth somehow. It was like a geyser or something. Sometime it would do that too. I remember grabbing him when I slipped in there. So I'm walking, I'm swimming, I jumped, and this is how brainwashed I jumped in the water, swimming to the nigga. I grabbed the nigga, I'm like, yo, I stand up, the water is like up to my waist, up to my knees, my waist. It's up to my waist, bro. It's not deep. I'm like, they had us thinking this was the pit of hell, because the staff would always take us to the middle of it where that drop off was, and they would show, and they would use a line in the lead, and they would show us how deep it was. Like, look, and they'll drop that shit. We all knew how to fish. We from Lake Michigan. I knew, like, whoa, this shit deep as hell. It was, and they made us think it was a never-ending pit, but it really was a never-ending pit, because it was just a hole in the ground that went under the land, that went under the island. It was just a hole in the island. That's all. That's all, bro. That means the island was on some deep water. That's why they had the staff there. A lot of people died at that place. I don't know what that pond was. All I know is it had a drop off in the middle of it. And I don't know how deep that drop off was. It could have been 10, 20 feet. That's what they was telling us. It had a current, it had a pull. Maybe it had holes in it that was sucking it. And so the water was level. It was connected to the outer sea, I guess. But I remember it pulled me, and I grabbed the kid, and I swam. And that's when I was swimming with, and then till I came to the other drop off. Then I pulled the kids to the shore. And that's all I remember from that story. I remember they ran us all, they grabbed us, they took us all in the house, they were shaking me. What happened? They took me to the upper staff. Then I remember sitting there, I remember being wet. I remember Mr. Currington came, he dropped me off. And I remember he got me drunk. Yep, he got me high, he lit some weed up. He used to drink Remy, that green and gold. They was talking to me. I told what happened. I told what happened. I'd seen his body in the water. They were saying he tried to escape. I'm like, no, he was in this water. They're like, how did you get to the water? And then once I talked to one staff, and that's when they started treating me real special. No, that's when they got me out of there. And that's when they sent me to Flint. They sent me to Flint, Michigan, to this place called Flint Regional Detention Center, right across the street from this deaf school. They locked me up there. It was a halfway house, because I knew too much. Because I guess they told the reporters that the kid tried to escape, and I went, but I don't even think they put me in the picture. They just say the kid tried to escape and he died. I was telling them, like, no, he was on the inside water. Because I'm like, yo, we was in. They like, why? Because one staff didn't know that game we played, and he was like, a head was like, why was y'all in the woods? I'm like, because we was running. I'm like, we hiding. I'm like, we was hiding from the other cabin. Like, why? I'm like, because you gotta get past them. He like, what? I'm like, he died on the inside water. They like, shut him up, get him out of here. They're like, get this kid out of here. And that's why they got me out that place. So that's why I say I swam with the kid, because I rushed out to get the kid. The thing was about going out your house to cross the street, but it had a crack in the middle of it. they made us think it was like a pit, like a pond that was like a pit to hell. So I remember pushing. So by the time I swam to the nigga, I'm like, I'm gonna take him to the other side. I swam to the nigga, bro. I'm walking with the nigga. I'm thinking like this. I'm like, this a joke. I'm like, this shit is this a real pond. So I'm about to pull the nigga to the other side, and that's when I hit the drop off. I'm like, oh, I didn't understand. I was in a euphoria. I'm like, I thought I realized like they tricking us. I always saw what they was doing to us, but it did have a crack in it. So I remember falling and slipping. I remember having to grab the kid because I couldn't. I just didn't know what was going on. I remember having to grab him, and then I remember having to swim, and I remember hitting the wall again. So it was like underwater. I guess Detroit is. If you've never been underwater, but you could be walking and it can go doom. That's what it was. When I went doom, I was like, oh, and he was just floating. He was heavy. He was floating on his back. When I found him, he was floating on his stomach. I turned him around, and I'm thinking like, as long as I keep his head above the water, he not dead. I didn't realize. Yeah, that really happened, punks. That's my N.O.vate story for the day. I only want it to be 30 minutes. Somebody research that. Tell me why that place closed, man. The man's name was Mr. Pickett, William Pickett. It was somebody else there that worked, Mr. Currington. There was a lady there. When I tell people like my foster mother, I didn't have a foster mother. I did, but she just took me. I think I went to her house a few times. I remember going to her house and doing work, man. Like she was German. She took me under her wing, bro. Made me smart as hell. I still know German, bro, to this day. Hop, hop, hop. Fischen auf Galop, Ubestaken, Ubesteinen, Abi Nishni, Ishni, Beinen, hop, hop, hop. Fischen auf Galop. She used to sing that shit to me, nigga. That place was crazy, boy. I still know every bone. She was a doctor. I still know every fucking bone in my body, my cranium, my clavicle, my xiphoid process, my humerus, my ulna, my carpals, my metacarpals. Come on, stop playing with me. I know every bone in my body, down to my tarsals and my metatarsals, nigga. And I remember that from 13. That's how much of an imprint. That lady, she was Jewish and German. She been through some shit. She was in Germany she was, I think, 8 years old. She had to hide for a few years in a burnt down. Shit, what? Be a fucking man in the face. Stop crying, telling your sad stories, nigga. That lady had to hide in a. They blew her house up, her family dead, and she hiding as a kid around them dead bodies, folks. I don't know. I think she said 2 years. I'm not sure. No, maybe 2 weeks. Okay. She had to hide. And I used to tell her my stories. Like, she like, you too young for that. I'm like, yeah. I was 11 years old. He used to put his gun. This nigga's named Tony Mobine from Detroit. If you're from Detroit, it was a killer named Tony Mobine, old school killer. When I was, he used to put his gun in my mouth when I was young. Like, open your. Niggas won't believe that. Ask somebody. Like, was N.O.vate, was George, was G Money in the crack house when he 11, getting robbed by this nigga named Tony Mobine like every other day? The nigga would rob me, and the nigga, I ain't gonna say his name, but the other, because he probably still alive, the drug dealer would make me work it off, and he'll send that nigga to rob me, and then be like, you owe me. Not, they just had me working for free as a kid, 11 years old. My mother kicked the door in, took me out that joint, boy. I don't be lying. I could tell y'all some shit. I just did that goofy shit being drunk, and niggas just didn't like me for something. Niggas just don't believe me. I never lie, bro. I might lie about current shit. Like, I might be drunk and I might say shit and I don't never lie. I might say shit to offend niggas, but I never lie, man. I'm out. N.O.vate.